Welcome to Tangi's Tapestry, where spirituality, law, motherhood, and relationships weave into a rich and meaningful discussion. I'm your host, Tangi, a mother, daughter, sister, friend, and an avid entrepreneur. Join me as I share my personal journey, explore faith-based discussions, and offer valuable legal insights. Each episode is designed to inspire, empower, and connect with individuals on their unique path. So let's dive into today's topic and embark on this journey together. Hey, we are live. Well, not really live, but I am on the podcast scene, you guys. I am so excited. This is episode number 1, season 1 of episode number 1. And y'all, please bear with me because I'm new to this thing, right? And it's very fitting that I selected my first episode to be about pivoting because that's exactly what I'm doing with this podcast. I am embracing the pivot. And so I'm your host, Tangi, and I am super excited to be on this journey with you. I hope that you are having a blessed start of the week. And I just want to say that this it can be a little uncomfortable, right? Being in front of like the camera or even recording audios or whatever it may be that I'm doing with this podcast. It's a little uncomfortable for me, but I am doing it nevertheless. And so I'm excited that you guys are on this journey with me, and I'm going to stop rambling. I do want to give a shout out to God for, giving me this ability to be able to just share authentically who I am and the different life experiences that I have. It's, to me, maybe podcasting might be a little bit easier than writing this book that I've been working on. But, you know, I am just always so grateful that God allows me to experience different things in life so that I can share them with others. And the other person that I really want to shout out is Professor B. Anthony, who is also a podcaster. I took his course earlier this beginning of this year, and I took a course in podcasting, not because I didn't really know what podcasting was, but because I really wanted to take my time with jumping into the podcasting arena. And I wanted to just really hear from someone who's had experience starting from the bottom, to the top. And he's an amazing instructor. His podcast channel is Filmmaker to Filmmaker. Make sure you check him out. He's located out here in Washington, D.C., and he's just such an amazing individual, both on and off the podcast scene. And so I'm just so grateful to Professor B. Anthony for giving me the courage that I needed to start my podcast, because it was his class that actually got me to launch my trailer that I posted a couple weeks ago. So, and of course, I give shouts out to all my friends and family who have been supporting me throughout all of my pivoting moments of life. So, this episode is basically going to be just a brief overview of why I started this podcast and my journey of pivoting from, I would say, maybe like 2019 to now, in this space of being in social media and all of that good stuff. So, and just kind of talking about how the importance of embracing change can be for your life, because some people are afraid to change. I know for me, I'm constantly changing things up. So I'm definitely not fearful of change, but I will say it can be uncomfortable at times to start the change, but I don't necessarily shy away from changing things up because I'm the queen of pivot. I can tell y'all now that I have started things and stopped things and started them again or didn't start them back again. So, like, I'm just good with pivoting, right? So, moving along, um, let's talk about my journey into pivoting. So, when I first started social media, um, I definitely did not have a problem sharing stuff online, right? I did not have a problem posting and sharing, but when it came to putting my face on camera or talking on lives or any of that, I was like, oh, get somebody else to do it, okay? Because that was just not for me. So a little background on my Facebook Lives. I had started doing Follow Me Fridays. And those were something that I was supposed to post every Friday. And it was my business coach, um, Lisa Geis, who also is a very amazing business coach. I mean, I would say, even going all the way back to, 2019, she was one of the biggest supporters of, me launching even my business that I started back then. And so she was telling me that I needed to do, she would give me homework to do Facebook Lives, and I hated it. I genuinely hated being on the camera on Facebook. I just did not like it at all. I was always nervous. I didn't know what to say, and sometimes you look up and you see like the little eyeball and it tells you how many people are watching and you'd be like one person watching. And even that time when I would just see one person, I'd be like, oh my God, they're looking at me. But it was just, it was a daunting task. I did not like it. But nevertheless, I did it. And, I gained a little bit of um, experience from that, just learning how to maneuver, being online, setting up, the equipment and all that stuff, which I didn't really have much at the time. I think I had like my phone. I don't even think I was using a laptop, but I was using my phone. I didn't have a microphone or anything like that. And so some of my videos just looked really just amateur. And I still look like an amateur, but that's okay. I'm getting there, right? And so I think, doing those Follow Me Fridays, it showed people that it's okay to just start doing something, right? Just jump right on in. You may not have everything that you need, but just do it. So that was kind of my introduction into being on camera on social media and stuff like that. And so then fast forward to, like, I guess I want to say towards the end of 2019, or maybe actually, no, it was 2020, I think, when I started because it was during the pandemic. So, during the pandemic, I remember, being stuck in the home. And before the pandemic in like November of 2019, I had lost my mother, and that will be another topic for another time. But I had lost my mother, and then I remember shifting into the pandemic and just being stuck in the house. I had a little one. I think at the time she was in, I want to say, kindergarten, and I had my other daughters, my older daughters, and we were all in the house, and it was just so much going on. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start a YouTube channel. And it was like my little one too, because she's like definitely um what is it, phone savvy. Like, she knows how to get on computers, tablets, all that stuff. That girl, she could probably run my podcast channel for me. That's how good she is with technology. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this YouTube channel. And I named it Tea Time with Tangie. And I was thinking like, oh, I'm going to grab like my favorite cup of tea and I'm going to give legal advice, right? Because at that time I had started my document preparation service business in 2019 um, in September. And so I was like, I'm just going to, and for those of you that don't know, I'm a licensed attorney out in Maryland and in the District of Columbia. And I do practice family law, immigration, and estate planning. That's just a little caveat, a little side note. But so I started this YouTube channel, and on that YouTube channel, I was like, oh, I'm going to give tips and legal information. And at that time, I was telling myself I was going to do business law. So again, that's another pivot, right? Like I pivot in like my career, and part 2 will be more about my career pivots, but right now I'm talking about more of my personal stuff. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna pivot and do this tea time with Tangi, and it was good. I wasn't consistent, but nevertheless I was on camera, something that I didn't really care to be, but I was getting used to just putting myself out there and sharing different things with the audience. But I didn't really have a plan. Like I just was going, I was doing it every second and I think fourth Thursday. And I didn't really have structure with that, but I was just doing something, right? It was during the pandemic, being shut in the house. So it definitely built up my tolerance to being on the camera and made me less uncomfortable, but I still struggled with the whole YouTube channel. But it was something I was able to pivot with. And fast forward to now, 2024, after trying, to be on Facebook Lives and trying to be on you know, YouTube, which I still do YouTube. My podcast will be on YouTube, but, and I changed the name because it was Tea Time with Tangi, and I pivoted to changing the name. As you can see, there's that pattern, right, of always changing something. Queen of pivot. But I changed up my YouTube channel name the beginning of January. I was like, I'm just going to change the name. I still hadn't thought about doing podcasting. I was getting ready to take that course, but I still was on the fence about doing podcasting. So I was like, okay, let me just change the name. And I prematurely, like, you know, put out the name change, and then I did a video, and then I just stopped doing videos altogether. And then I started doing the podcasting class. And so sometimes I think when we pivot, we should probably have a plan in place. We probably shouldn't just be pivoting just to pivot or to change something, just to be changing things. And I think I had been going through a lot of different things in my life. So I think I was acting out of maybe a trauma response where I was just trying to find something that made me feel like whole and complete. And we know that the only thing that can really make us whole and complete is God, right? It isn't the things or the experiences we're going through or any of that stuff. Like none of this stuff, the social media, none of that stuff's going to make me whole, right? But I think I was just trying to fill some type of void, and I was just trying different things just to try to see like how I could feel better about things. And so that probably wasn't the greatest pivot of me just changing my YouTube name to something, different. But nevertheless, it was me, changing. And I think for me, it's a good thing to, you know, pivot and to change, but you definitely have to have like some type of plan in place. It has to have a purpose, right? You can't just be changing things just to change things. You really should have a purpose behind it. And that leads me into like the spiritual perspective of embracing pivots. So, we look at some of the figures in the Bible when they were pivoting and changing and going different courses in their lives. So I think again, there has to be some type of purpose behind why you're doing what you're doing. So for me, you know, pivoting and changing over from Facebook to YouTube, to now podcasting. I think for me, more of the purpose is that I am sharing more of the things that God wants me to share with people. And even though, like I said, I'm working on a book, I think that um, this is a good space for me to start while I try to navigate that space of writing a book. And there are things that God wants me to share with people. And I think this is a good platform for me, more so than, just going on live on Facebook. Because I feel like I can reach a bigger audience with a podcast channel. So, like I was saying about the spiritual perspective of pivoting, you know, we look at some of the people in the Bible, and you could take, for example, like Moses. He was a prince of Egypt, and then he turned to a shepherd, and then he was the leader of the Israelites. So even he pivoted, even he had to go through different stages of his life. Um, and so, and that story can be found in the book of Exodus. Um, but, he's one prime example of someone who had to pivot, who had to go through different phases of their life to um, meet the people that he's supposed to help, right? And so David is another prime example of pivoting. He was a shepherd, and then he went to become a king. And so, that may be somebody's testimony that they're starting off as a shepherd and going to become a king. No, but seriously, no. He's just a prime example of another person who had to pivot into a different phase of his life. And then you have Paul, who was out here, persecuting Christians, and then he became an apostle. Now, I wouldn't say I'm in that line of pivoting. I'm not out here, killing people or nothing like that. But, um, you know, those are just some examples of, people who were in the Bible who had to pivot. Sorry about that. That was my alarm going off. And so, these stories, they illustrate the importance of embracing change and trusting in God's plan. And for me, I think that is so huge. And that is such a huge part of my life, is being able to trust God when it's time for me to pivot, and to know when I'm supposed to pivot. Because a lot of times I think in my past, I was just doing things without consulting God. I didn't ask God for any direction. I didn't turn to him and ask for, his guidance. I was just like, listen, I'm going to listen to what my coach said, and I'm going to start doing Follow Me Fridays, and that doesn't work for me. Then I'm going to go to YouTube, and I'm going to create a YouTube channel and name it this. And like, I didn't really consult God in a lot of my pivoting moments of life, because I just, I thought, I got this, I can do this, but I think now that I'm doing this whole podcast channel, it's very centered and focused on my spiritual well-being, and also like my relationship with God and all that stuff. So like, I am definitely purpose driven when it comes to this new phase of my life. And so I think that there are positive aspects to pivoting, because there can be good seasons and there can be also bad seasons of pivot, right? So, but the positive aspects of pivoting for me is that it's opening up new opportunities. I'm developing personal growth. I'm expanding my influence. Like I said, I think a podcast channel is a platform that can reach more people than, Facebook, or, you know, um, being on Instagram or any of these other platforms. I think this is just the more broader platform for me. And then it's aligning closer with my purpose. And I think that when you're pivoting, that's really important, that you are making sure that it aligns with your purpose, and you're not just doing something, you're not just changing your routine just to change it. Like, you have a purpose behind it. And I think that is so important um, for me. I mean, I don't know if that's important for you, but for me, it definitely is more in alignment with my purpose and my walk with God. And so some of the challenges though that I've faced, with pivoting, obviously there are good and bad to changes. And I wouldn't necessarily say bad, but there are there are ups and there can be downs when it comes to changing and doing something new. There's always that level of uncertainty. Like, you really don't know how this is going to work. You don't know if this is going to take off, if people are going to gravitate towards it, if they're going to look at you and be like, oh my God, here she goes again. She's changing something up. She's never consistent. Like, we don't know if we can trust this. And I think that's, what I experience sometimes. And people probably do look at like, oh man, here she goes again. She's got something new going on. But I'm hoping and praying that this is, something that is um, going to be certain, and me to be consistent with it. That's a big part in it. There's also the fear of the unknown. Not really knowing if this is going to work. And not knowing if people um are going to judge me, or for some of the things that I might share or say. But that's okay. And then there's the setbacks, right? There's always setbacks. I'm Listen, my life has been full of setbacks. Okay, every time I get ready to start something, not all the time, but some of the time, most of the time, whenever I'm starting something new, something happens, right? And so that's just life. You just have setbacks, and you just have to learn how to be resilient and bounce back from it. Because I, again, have had to bounce back from a lot of stuff, which I'm going to be talking about this season as I go deeper into my episodes. But, there is, you know, you're going to grow and you're going to learn during times of change. So, yes, there are ups and downs, but what do you gain from pivoting? You get to show others how to pivot in similar situations. And that's why it's so beneficial to share when you change things, because there might be somebody on the other side of this audio or video, whichever you're looking at, if you're looking at me on YouTube or listening to me, um, who's thinking, I don't have what it takes. I can't be a I can't do a podcast. I've never even been in front of a camera, or I don't like speaking in front of people, or whatever it may be, right? But if they can see someone like myself who has little experience in this game, okay? I'm definitely not a pro at podcasting. If y'all can see my setup right now, you would know that I am not a pro at this, okay? But I just started. I just did it. Why? Because I believe in what God has told me about myself and what he believes I am to do in this world. And so if God believes in me, then I'm going to step out on faith and just do it. And so I think, sometimes you just have to make that change and just go for it, and it's going to, you're going to have, um, your pivoting moments are going to be viewed as a path to grow rather than a sign of failure, because you fail when you don't pivot, when you don't change, when you don't try to reinvent yourself, when you don't try to do something that's going to take you to the next level. That's when you fail. When you stay stagnant and you stay in one place and complacent and you're just okay with just being where you're at, and you know that you're supposed to be doing something different, but you don't do it, that is when you fail, right? So I have come to the conclusion of this episode, but I just want to summarize, just a couple of things that I spoke about. My journey from being on Facebook, to going to YouTube, to doing podcasting, all has a purpose. It was all strategically designed by God for me to go through those different pivoting moments. And this is just one little small aspect of my life. My life is not centered around being on social media or being a podcaster or any of that stuff, right? But this is just one little aspect of my life that I'm sharing, as to why I started my podcast. But I think that, it's so important that you embrace those seasons where you're just changing things up, and you really don't care what other people think. You don't care if people are like, oh, here she goes again, or here he goes again, trying something new, trying something different. Good for you. Keep doing that. Keep reinventing yourself. Don't let anybody make you feel like you can't stick to one thing. No, you know be free. Do whatever you want to do. That's me. I'm gonna change it up. Like, hopefully I'm not changing from the podcast stuff anytime soon. But I think this is my next this is my season for me right now until I go to the next level, which will hopefully be my book, right? That's where I need to be pivoting to. I know somebody's sitting out there listening to me like, this girl's supposed to have wrote that book a long time ago. It's coming. It's coming. I'm being still right now in this pivotal moment of being a podcaster. So, you know, just I don't know who needs to hear this. Just do it. If it's podcasting, if it's just being on social media for the first time, going on live, doing whatever, just do it. Whatever it is that you feel that you're supposed to be moving to the next phase of your life, do it. Do it afraid, do it alone, but do it with God. Okay? Do it with God. He will make sure that He gives you what you need to be able to pivot, um, you know, in the season that you're in. And pivoting is a necessary part of growth. It really is. It is going to transform you both personally and even professionally for some of you. So, I encourage you to, um, just listen to that voice within, that tells you it's okay to pivot and to have faith and to trust God, because His plans are never going to lead you in the wrong direction. And so, one of the quotes that I want to leave you with today is, out of Jeremiah 29:11, and that is, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, and plans to give you hope and a future." Okay, so I invite you to share, your own pivoting stories with me. Maybe I challenge you to go on a social media and maybe use a specific hashtag. Like you could tag, you could go. When I post this somewhere, you can, share your pivoting story and hashtag Tangi's Tapestry pivot if you want. It might sound kind of corny, but hey, whatever. But I appreciate you all. I encourage you to please subscribe to my podcast and share it with your friends, your family, any followers that you have, and be on the next be on the next I'm drawing a blank. Be on the next lookout for the next episode, which will drop a week from now. And it's going to be a part 2 of pivoting. I'm going to be sharing with you how I pivoted from being an employee to an entrepreneur and operating my own firm, and what that looked like and how I got to that space. Because if y'all hear the story that made me go into full-time business owner mode, yeah, it's a story to be told. So thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to talking with you guys again. Like I said, this is, you know, I know I sound a little nervous or whatever, but I don't like the camera that much, and I don't like even, yeah. Y'all get it. I already told y'all I'm not gonna replay why I don't like all this stuff. But this is good for me, right? This is my purpose. This is where God has me, and I'm excited to be doing something that is purpose driven. So until then, take care, and I look forward to speaking with you guys again soon. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Tangi's Tapestry. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Remember, new episodes drop every second and fourth Monday, so be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more heartfelt discussions, personal stories, and valuable legal insight. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with your family, friends, and followers. Your support means the world to me as I strive to create meaningful content that inspires and empowers. Well, until next time, take care and remember to leave your own unique story into the tapestry of life. See you on the next episode of Tangi's Tapestry.